Having a bigger purpose more than yourself is key, I would say.
Yeah, versus just for the clout of like,
yeah,
hey,
like everybody wants to be a millionaire,
hey,
you know?
I got money.
Everybody wants to have a lot of money and spend it on whatever the F they want, but a bigger purpose is key for sure. Even if it's to inspire other people, you know, it doesn't have to be like, I want to save the earth.
which is in part for you.
Yeah,
you know?
for me, for sure.
But it's like also understanding, I think, that you're not going to change the world overnight. And I think that in the society, the world that we live in today, it's all very much instant gratification, right? With like social media, Uber Eats,
Amazon.
like, Amazon, you get something the same day sometimes, you know? And I feel like whenever you start pursuing a business, especially I've experienced this now, where like you have to really understand that patience is so important, and like letting things simmer and letting your thoughts simmer and like taking time along the process to like be centered with yourself and like really think through ideas and know that not everything's gonna come instantaneously. All right. Hi, Tammy, and welcome to Breaking Glass. I'm so excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I know we've known each other for a really long time, and I'm really excited to have you on the pod. We've known each other since high school, so it's been like, not to age us, but it's been like 10 years. And it's been really amazing, honestly, to like watch you grow to become the woman that you are today. And really
I feel the same.
Aww.
We've gone through a lot of versions of ourselves.
There's some embarrassing moments there, but it's okay. We made it through and we're still improving. And
I'm proud of who we are today. I will say that.
I agree. And especially proud, you started a business a couple years ago. Soul to Soul. Such a beautiful name. And I really want to talk about that today. So,
okay, let's get into it.
Okay, we need to open this door. Hold on.
The dogs are in.
They're in. They made it in to the club. Oh my God. Here's my monster. My monster boy.
Look, but they're well behaved.
Yeah. I mean, my little Chewbacca is not as well behaved. He loves licking, but okay. So a few years back, you started a sustainability swimwear line. But before getting into the actual business itself, I wanted to back up and talk about, you know, how you got into the idea of becoming a designer and how you found out that this was like a true passion point for you.
It kind of happened accidentally, if I'm being very honest here. Retrospectively, thinking of my childhood, I always liked designing. I always was scribbling little outfits in my journals or notebooks during class. I always was doing something with my hands, so it makes sense now that I'm in it and I'm living it, but I didn't always know I wanted to do that. I actually wanted to be a vet for a little while. Big plot twist there.
That's a big difference between a vet to a designer. It's something very serious to a very creative space.
But I really got into design during COVID, actually, because I was working in the medical field. And then, you know, COVID happened, offices closed. I had so much time on my hands. So I started designing and just doing things with my hands again. And that's honestly where it was born. I was making swimwear. My friends were telling me, start an Etsy. I don't actually like to sew. I like to design. So that's kind of where it all developed. And then the gears in my head started turning. I'm from Bolivia, so I ended up going there. I found a manufacturer and everything just kind of fell into place. And it felt like this is where I was supposed to be.
That's beautiful. I know that you mentioned to me, even like pre-COVID, when you were still on your veterinarian journey, did you have moments where you were like, I don't know if this is for me?
Totally. Yes. I realized that I was just doing it because it's what made sense. It was what was logical for me. And it was ultimately what was going to make my parents proud. And having that moment of, I'm not really doing this for me, I'm doing this for other people. It was really impactful, you know, and it wasn't an easy thing, but I'm glad I realized it when I did and I pivoted and I took another route, you know.
What was the catalyst that made you decide like, okay, I'm doing this for others versus for me? Like, what was that moment for you?
I don't know if there was one particular moment, but I had a lot of mentors or people that I worked with in the medical industry, be it veterinarian or the actual medical industry, because I did work with a radiologist for a bit. But the people that I was surrounding myself with were very honest with me. And I'm so thankful to them for that. But they were really candid and saying, hey, look, maybe if I was your age and I did this over again, I wouldn't be here.
Oh, wow.
And that's impactful, you know, because when you're having mentors, you're shadowing people, you're working under people, you kind of grow up with the idea that every grown-up loves their job and they wake up every day and they go and they hustle and they come back home and they love their life. When you grow up, you kind of figure out that's not the reality for many people, maybe even the majority of people. And just hearing them say that, you know, to my face like that, like, hey, look, I'm in a shit ton of debt. I don't know if I can curse on this show, but
It's totally okay.
I am in a lot of debt
on this show because I'm a cursor. I'm a sailor over here. But yeah, no, becoming a veterinarian, there's a lot of medical, like,
yeah, they
expenses.
said, hey, look, we're in a lot of debt. Honestly, from what I gathered in conversations with them, it didn't seem like they were that fulfilled in their career choice. Granted, you don't see the best case scenarios all the time. You're dealing with sick animals or sick people, and a lot of times you are being the bearer of bad news.
Yeah.
And I think that was difficult for them to navigate, and I picked up on that.
Yeah, I can imagine being in the medical field, like whether it be like a pet or even a human, right? Like that takes some mental toll on you for sure.
For sure.
You're not there for like the highlights of someone's life. You're there for like kind of more the low point.
Yep.
So it's kind of, you really shifted gears and you're like, well, no, I want it to be like in this positive side of life.
Yeah.
Right? Which is
like,
really
I
beautiful.
would come home and I'd be like, I'm sad right now. Like, I just had a whole ass day of work and I'm sad.
Yeah.
Do I feel good about it? Not really.
That's why there's so much respect for people in the medical field. Like, I
Oh my
personally,
goodness,
I can't do
yes.
it either. Like, I'm definitely a creative person as well. Like, love
So
you,
much
doctors
respect.
and vets. Thank you for your service, seriously, because it's a lie. It's a big toll. But I know that you mentioned that your parents wanted you to become a vet. That's what they wanted for you.
I don't know if they wanted that specifically, but most immigrant parents want you to become a doctor, a lawyer, something of the sorts. What's another one? That's a big one.
You said the lawyer?
I said the lawyer.
That's
I said
always
those
the
are the main
doctor, the
two,
lawyer.
honestly. Be a doctor, be a lawyer.
Yeah. Because those are usually associated with like making the big bucks. But like in today's society, you can make money in so many different ways. So it's like,
and I wish that's something more people explained to me growing up. There's so much money in the world. You just have to find a way to make it. Maybe it's not being a doctor or a lawyer. Those were kind of the only two paths that presented themselves to me when I was growing up. So I leaned toward the medical field because I was just good at science.
yeah.
So I'm like, this is what makes sense. I want to have a good career. I want to make my parents proud. I'm good at science. I'm good at going to the medical industry.
Guess it's kind of gonna be what it is.
And then I hated it. Not instant regret, but big regrets. Big regrets.
You had like that pit in your stomach. You're like, yeah, this really isn't it.
Yeah, it really was not it. And I'm happy I realized before, though, you know, I think some people go through it all.
I've seen some nurses like go through nursing school, all these things a year or two later, especially post COVID. Like the nurses are like, I'm out of this industry. They more get into like beauty world after that, because actually I wanted to become a doctor as well. I just feel like it's like kind of like a rite of passage as an immigrant. You need to like think about becoming a doctor, and then you actually kind of follow through with the action. You're like, oh, that's a lot of money, a lot of time, and
A lot of stress.
a lot of mental health. Like, oh my God, it's so much. I can definitely resonate, but I was definitely the person where I was like taking the biology classes. I was like, I'm gonna be a
And I
doctor.
liked it too. That's the thing. I liked it, but then it gets really serious, you know?
I'm a big believer that like we all have certain passions in this life for a reason, and like when you pursue those passions, like the money really truly follows, right? And like even if there is a desire in like the medical industry, whatever, it's like really tapping into your inner child, kind of what you were mentioning, you know, how you used to design things when you were young. You're kind of manifesting that back into your life, and I just think like financially things will follow when you do something you love. You know?
For sure. And even other passions, you know, I wanted to be a vet, and now I'm always with animals. Seriously.
You literally are always
I am
pet sitting.
always with animals. So it's interesting to reflect on it, because I wanted that to be a career, and life kind of turned me around. And now I still get that aspect in my life of being surrounded with animals and having that joy that comes from them, but not in a serious career like setting. It was kind of like, hey, this is what you thought you wanted, but there's so many other options and alternatives that you can still get what you want, just not in the constraints that you really thought it was going to be in.
And it's not making it your whole life too, right? Because I feel like sometimes we think about, okay, like this passion, and then it has to become my whole world because this is
like
my
it
passion.
can be a
And it's
hobby.
like, yeah, exactly. It's like chill, all right? Not everything
it
needs
doesn't
turn
have to
into
be
a
so
career.
high pressure.
Yeah, and I feel like especially coming from an immigrant family, like you feel that pressure to like know what you want to do, because family had to walk 10,000 miles to go to
In
school.
the snow,
In the
carrying a
snow.
book bag full of bricks. Yeah.
full of bricks that they couldn't afford, that they had to borrow from their friend. It's like always, It's always the drama. Oh my gosh. Mind you, our parents they were pretty much raised in Miami. No, where's your parents from?
No. I moved here when I was 7. So my parents were raised
okay.
in Bolivia. My dad had American citizenship, so they kind of bounced back and forth. He had older sisters. They went to college, so he'd come visit them when he was a teenager. He had more exposure, but for the most part, they went to high school in Bolivia.
How was that experience like for your parents? How was that? Like pretty similar to like going to school here in the US, or is it completely
I wouldn't
different?
think so. I mean, also very different era, right? Like mid 70s to mid 80s. It was just a different dynamic. You know, like most women were stay-at-home wives. They were always there for their kids.
Good old days. No, we're ambitious women, but
sometimes you do it.
It's always in the back of every girl's mind. Like whether
I could have just woken up, done dishes, made beds, and called it a freaking day. Made 2 meals. But I think it was definitely different from our upbringing. And then my parents, respectively, had very different upbringings. My dad came from like a higher class family, and he had 2 siblings. My mom, not so much, and she had 6 siblings. So it was very different dynamic. Yeah. And then they met each other in high school. They were best friends. They both did a bunch of extracurricular activities. Like they played soccer, they ran track, they were best friends. They would always hang out. My dad was a grade older than my mom, but she was friends with all the girls in his grade. And that's kind of how they connected. And then after a while of being best friends, I'd say maybe like 2 or 3 years, they got together.
That's so beautiful. And it's nice that they knew each other before.
Yeah, my grandma would tell me she was dying for them to date, but she just didn't see it happening. She just thought they were going to be friends forever. And one day they came and they told her, hey, we're together now. And she was thrilled.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it when the suegra approves.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, my mom was like her daughter. She gave that lady a car and stuff. Like she loved my mom so much. Yeah.
So you mentioned your parents like have first wanted you to be a vet, right? But it seems like they're pretty enthusiastic for you to pursue something you love. Like, how does that dynamic change from like, well, I guess before I even asked that, like, how did you tell them, hey, I don't want to be a vet anymore. I want to pursue.
Thanks for the college degree, but scrapping that thing.
Scrapping that whole 50 grand down the drain. I'm moving on. How did that conversation
very
go?
fortunate that my parents were gracious with me and accepting. I actually think I told them when I was in Bolivia. I already had my reservations, but I was in Bolivia. I had been there for about a month and a half, and I had found my manufacturer. Like, things were already moving with this. You know?
So by the time you talked to them, you were like in it.
Yeah, they knew I was doing it, but they kind of saw it more as like, this is a little passion project. I think in the back of their minds, that's what they thought. She'll get over it. She's going to realize this is not for the weak, you know? And she's going to go back to what she's put so much effort into already, which was the degree that is now useless to me. I was in Bolivia. I found all these things. I was signing contracts, and I had talked to my mom about it before, actually.
You gave her a little
Most
heads up.
women do. I am a daddy's girl, but my mom and I just relate, you know?
Yeah. And I'm sure your dad is more like, wanted you to have that secure route. Like, I just
He's the more intimidating one for sure in the dynamic. So I had talked to my mom already, and she's like, okay, look, do whatever you want, but I have my reservations on this. Talk to your father, and like, let's see what he has to say about it.
Talk to your father.
Like,
the scariest words to hear from your mother.
I just told my dad straight up, honestly, I said, hey, look, I'm doing this for you guys at the end of the day. Like, if I were to go to medical school and do the whole thing, just know that it is not for me. It is for you. And I think that kind of sucked to hear as a parent, right? Like, I think they were a little bit proud in the moment. Like, our daughter loves us. But ultimately, they wanted me to have a fulfilling life. So they said, hey, look, if this is what you really want to do it now because you're young enough to do it now. So do it now. If it all goes to shit, you can pivot.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine. But if you have a dream as your parents, we support you and we want you to chase it, you know, which was really nice to hear and made me feel more at ease about what I was doing because, I mean, starting your business is for crazy people. It's for crazy people, for sure.
It's scary. It's a bold move. It's a lot of trust you have to put in yourself, you know, so.
But it felt nice to know that they trusted me too. So it wasn't just me alone. Although they had their hesitations, they're like, hey, if you're going to do it, you have our support, do it.
Yeah, you know that they supported you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. Like,
yeah.
That's not an experience that everyone has.
No, not at all.
That's beautiful.
I think it helped that my dad tried to start his own business too, so he kind of understood. I also think that's why they thought I was gonna quit eventually.
Okay.
Because it didn't go as planned for my dad. I think it was a very different situation, which is why he gave me the advice he gave me of being young and chasing my dream right now. Because when he did it, I was in college. My older brother was in college. My mom was here. They were still living in Miami. I think he just felt so much pressure of, hey, I'm chasing this dream. And realistically, when you start a business, the first 3 to 5 years, you're burning cash.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes. So I think he really felt that of, hey, I'm burning cash, but I have to put food on the table because I have other people that I need to provide for. And since I didn't find myself in that situation, he's like, hey, do it. I tried. I couldn't do it. Maybe I'm his legacy.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
do it for me.
You're like the golden child still in the end, but yeah, I definitely think like the older you get, like the harder it becomes, because just naturally the responsibilities just stack on, even in our later 20s compared to our early 20s. Like, I don't know, like I definitely feel the pressure. I work a corporate 9-to-5 job, right? And now I'm pursuing like this passion project.
And you want to have a social life, and you want to be fit, and you want to read, and you want to have a hobby, and there's not enough hours in the day.
There is not, especially when you're trying to date. Going back to the business, you wanted to do something creative. You wanted to do something fun. You knew veterinarian wasn't for you, right? So you started a swimwear line. Why swimwear, and why was sustainability such an important focus as you started this?
Swimwear, just because I've always been a beach girl since forever. I remember being in high school, and if I had a spare nickel, I was looking at a bikini to buy. Yeah, it was
that was the lifestyle.
But that was our life. Living in Miami, we were so blessed. Like, our high school experience was honestly unreal, Cindy.
Yeah, that's true.
Boat party, regatta, tiki bar in the Keys. Like,
yeah, you were always in a
pool
bikini.
parties. You would have pool parties here with a slide and stuff. I remember.
Those were crazy days.
Probably doesn't remember.
I probably blacked out a few times. I'm not gonna lie to you.
But we were always in a bathing suit.
Yeah, we were.
And we're girls. So, she already saw me in that. I posted a photo in it already. This, that, the other.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to make my own so I can stop wasting my freaking money on this.
It's fair.
And that's also why they're reversible.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I'd waste so much money on a suit, and I wore it one time, and then that's it. Everybody saw me. So I kind of wanted to reinvent that and give you multiple uses. The reversible swimsuits.
The reversible. Yeah, I love that.
So that's why I designed reversible, and I guess you can call it multifunctional. Just a bunch of different ways to style it. Yeah. So you can wear it as a strapless, you can add straps, wear it as a halter, and there's just a lot of ways to reinvent it, which is what I wanted to give the customers options.
Especially like, different vacations call for different vibes and like different moments. So it's nice that you can have like one swimsuit that can be adapted.
Exactly.
To different things. So I love that.
And then more going into the sustainability aspect, I just think fashion has kind of taken a turn for the worst. Really? Like, we're all about the trends. We're all about this, that, the other. And then every season we're dumping our wardrobe to get a new one.
I really want to go back to fast fashion because it is a big, big problem. So it seems like that really inspired you. But like, what did you learn about fast fashion that you were like, no, I need to change
so
this?
many aspects. Just the quality and how it's produced, because you're getting bad quality because it's produced by people who need to turn out 500 garments a day. I mean, I don't really know the statistics off the top of my head, but you get what I'm saying.
It's a lot of people. Like, what is that called? A
sweatshop. Yeah, and they're paid less than $1 per garment. There's so much pressure on them to just churn out so many pieces that obviously, you're sacrificing quality. Also, just from a basic human empathy, from a basic empathetic standpoint, you don't want
like
somebody else to be, working in those conditions. So that was a big part of it. And then just really ocean pollution is heavy on my mind always. I think I love the ocean, obviously. It's a place that brings me so much, solace, and has taught me so much and has been there for me through so many of my hardest moments and my best moments. But it makes me sad when I go to the beach and I see it's littered with trash, and most of our trash does end up in the ocean regardless, even if it's on the sidewalk. Somehow it's going to end up in the ocean. So I think that was also a big reason of why I wanted to focus on making the brand sustainable.
That's amazing. And an impact that you're making on the world, right? Because a footprint gets left behind, But when you started the business, you didn't really know that much about manufacturing and all that jazz. So how did you really start learning how to do that? I know you mentioned during COVID, you started to get a sewing machine. You started getting a sewing machine And you started to kind of like get in there, right? But how was that learning everything to launch a swimwear line like for the first time?
I'm still learning, so I don't think I've learned it all. I'm also someone who learns from experience. Like, I am not a person who can read something and be like, okay, we're gonna apply. Like, I need to go through it, probably get tumbled around a little bit, and then come out the other side with new knowledge. So a lot of it for me has been learning as I go and just doing and learning from that. I really just jumped head first and I went door to door trying to find a manufacturer. Like, I didn't know there was databases that had that info. Also, it's in Bolivia, which like impossible.
So you went to Bolivia and decided, well, I guess before you even went, you just decided one day, okay, I'm going to do a swimwear line. I want it to be sustainable. You had an idea for design.
Yes,
So
I already had an idea for it. I had friends who encouraged me, to do it and pursue it. I didn't want to do it myself. In terms of sewing, I knew it wasn't a scalable approach to it,
Yeah.
And ultimately, if I wanted this to be my livelihood, I knew at some point I was going to have to scale and it was going to have to be bigger than what it was right now or at that moment. So I was by chance going to Bolivia. My parents live over there. I was going for a month just to see them. It was still COVID time, so a little bit after the whole travel bans, but it was still really lax. Like, I still didn't have normal hours like I used to. So I was going to Bolivia and I said, let's just try and see if I can find a factory. Like, if I find a factory, I'll take it as a sign that this is meant to be,
Yeah.
So I went and I had all my little designs with me in like a little carry-on briefcase.
Cute. I love it.
I probably looked like a fool.
No.
I walked through the markets, the busy as hell markets in Bolivia, sweating my ass off. Summertime there. It's about the same climate as Miami, where I'm from, Santa Cruz. And so I'd walk and I'd go door to door. I already knew some seamstresses because I'd go and I'd have custom stuff made. So I went to them first. Hey, do you know how to work with Lycra? Working with Lycra is very difficult. It's slippery. It slides on the machine. You need like a special foot for the sewing machine to help you work with it. It's a hassle.
And
So-
for those who are in the industry, like what is specific? Do all swimwear brands use Lycra, or like why did you want to lean into that material?
Yes, most of them use Lycra because it's that stretchy material.
Okay.
Like spandex shorts, kind
Yeah.
of like workout material.
Where like it hugs your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hugs your body, it stretches, but it doesn't lose its form.
Yeah. Well, I will say Shein doesn't use that, but Shein definitely doesn't use that. That's more of like the higher quality brands that are going to
Yeah.
be like leaning into Lycra, because I'm sure it's more expensive.
I mean, there's such a broad range now.
okay.
There's so many different types of Lycra. There's some with UV protection even, which we're
Ooh.
thinking of getting into. It's really interesting. I mean, textiles in itself is like a science.
Yeah, no, I bet.
Like the different compositions, it's very nitty gritty when you get down to the details of it.
Okay, amazing.
So there's a lot of options, but it's really difficult to work with. So I would go door to door. Everybody turned me away. They're like, no, we don't work with that. We don't know. Blah, 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 whatever. I got
Right.
one lead that a couple people tell me that she was called La Tigresa or something like that. Like some
Ooh.
very empowering name.
All right.
And I couldn't find that lady. Like, I
Ooh.
searched a whole week for her in the market. I'm like, do you know this lady, La Tigresa? I heard she works with bathing suits. Can you please help me?
Sounds like
They're
you're making
"She
a
left."
drug deal at
They're
that
like,
point.
dude, she left. Like, she's gone. We don't know where she is.
Oh my gosh.
I guess she quit. I don't know.
Never got in contact with her.
I never found La Tigresa. No.
Okay, so
La
what'd you
Tigre,
do
whatever
from there?
her
You're
name
like
is.
searching. Everyone's like,
I
La
found
Tigresa.
one guy at the market that said he could do it for me. So I'm like, great. Let's start by making these samples. Perfect. I think I told him to make 5 for me. Like the 5 designs I had already done myself. So I also am glad I started sewing them myself because I knew more or less how to make it, and I could explain the process. And then obviously I'd get guidance from them because they've been tailors or seamstresses their whole life. But at least I had some background knowledge on how to construct the pieces. So he said he was going to do about 5 samples for me. I said, okay, great. The guy took forever. He said, I'll have them for you by next week. Next week came, hey, what's up with the samples? Haven't done them. Next week, hey, what's up with it? 2 more days.
Wow.
And at that point, I said, I can't work with this guy. Like, this is going to go nowhere, I'm asking you to make 5. What happens when I ask you to make 50? What happens when I ask you to make 75? So at that point, I'm down bad.
Yeah,
I'm talking to my family there. This is my situation. They're like, hey, Tammy, how's your vacation going? I'm like, dude, I've gone to the market every single day. I've gone to the market every single day, try to find somebody to make this for me, and nobody can do it. My cousin remembers. She went to school with somebody somebody whose family owned some big industrial factory that made uniforms for like airlines. Like there's a lot of petroleum in Bolivia.
Okay.
So people who work in the petroleum fields, they made all their uniforms. I thought it worth my while to at least go chat with them and see if they could help me. And through them, I found a manufacturer.
Okay, so that's how you found your manufacturer. It's interesting.
Yeah, honestly, my cousins saved me. They did me the lifeline. And it just helped me also, I guess, realize that you need to air out your shit, right? Like you need to be vulnerable and tell people like, hey, I'm struggling with this or this isn't working out. I think it's easy for us to internalize what we think of as our failures or vulnerabilities. But once you expose it to the open, you never know. Someone might be like, hey, I was in that position too. Or, hey, I have this contact that can help you. This, that, or the other. So that's really what saves me. And then my cousins put me in contact with the right people and then things are moving.
So I think that's a really important moment, I'm sure, for you when like you kind of hit that standstill moment, because I feel like a lot of people who start their own business, right, or start their own endeavor, like they experience that in their own way, right, where they just kind of hit a wall. Sometimes that could really make someone decide like, okay, like is this even something I want to pursue? Is the universe working in my favor? Like, did you have those moments, like especially as you hit this wall, or you were just always like tunnel vision? Because I feel like a lot of people experience that, you know, so like how did you navigate if you did experience that?
I don't think I experienced that so early on because it was such a beginning phase. Like I didn't really have money in it yet, that if it didn't work out I was just gonna come back and actually go into the medical field. But once that first domino fell, which was my cousin connecting me with the right people, things were kind of just like smooth sailing. I didn't think about the walls that I was gonna encounter. Not to say that I haven't, just in that moment I didn't feel like they were really walls. I did have a partner that was kind of a wall, but I'm really hard-headed, honestly. So I think my mentality is kind of just like, fuck this wall, I'm gonna bulldoze through this wall and we're gonna keep going, which I think is what you need, definitely, because you are gonna have walls. But I definitely have had walls that have been these moments of, should I keep going with this, right? Is this a sign for me to just bail now and save myself the trouble? But honestly, when I started doing it, I knew this was my end game, or I knew this was what I wanted to be my end game, you know? I've worked in a bunch of different industries. Like I think I've bounced around a lot, so I had a better idea of, this is what I want, this is something that's sustainable for me and ultimately going to fill me long term.
Yeah. And I think it's also because you were clear on your why, right? And I think like that's what people need to like really like nail down on, like why they start something. And like it was like really that sustainability phase, like giving back to the earth and like helping women find pieces that are versatile and like they can make investments that like make sense for them.
For sure. Having a bigger purpose more than yourself is key, I would say.
Yeah, versus just for the clout of like,
hey, like everybody wants to be a millionaire, you know? Everybody wants to have a lot of money and spend it on whatever the F they want, but bigger purpose is key for sure. Even if it's to inspire other people, you know, it doesn't have to be like, I want to save the earth.
Which is in part for you.
Yeah,
you know?
For me, for sure.
But it's like also understanding, I think, that you're not going to change the world overnight. And I think that in the society, the world that we live in today, it's all very much instant gratification, right? With like social media, Uber Eats, Amazon, you get something the same day sometimes, you know? And I feel like whenever you start pursuing a business, especially I've experienced this now, where like you have to really understand that patience is so important, and like letting things simmer and letting your thoughts simmer and like taking time along the process to like be centered with yourself and like really think through ideas and know that not everything's gonna come instantaneously, you know? So like I'm sure you've experienced that, you know, and like you've had waves of that. So like, would you give any advice to someone who's kind of in that phase where they're getting impatient and like they just kind of like need to reframe their mindset?
Talk to the people in your life that are your support group. I think that's my main piece of advice. I'm someone who's really private with my things, and I can kind of spiral in a sense and end up feeling really lonely, but it's really all just a mental game. It's you versus you, and your brain is going to play tricks on you and tell you you're super misunderstood and no one understands you on this journey and this, that, and the other. But how are people going to understand you if you keep it to yourself? You know? And it's hard to say, hey guys, I'm struggling, like I'm going through it right now. I don't know what's going on. I don't feel successful. I don't feel supported. I don't feel understood. But once you say the words out loud, you're probably going to realize you're making it up. And that's not really the case. And whoever you're talking to, if they're a real, you know, supportive friend, person, partner, whatever, they're going to be there for you. You know, they're going to have your back. They're going to kind of calm you down, you know, and say, hey, look, things take time. I've had an experience like this. So you're going to build common ground with people. Like, you have no idea how many people feel the same things you do until you air it out.
Just voice it. Yeah. I was actually watching a TikTok and I love that you said that, because this girl, she was talking about her mom. She talks about her friends being the boards of director of her life. Yeah, no, I was watching something and she was saying that, you know, she really views her friends as like the boards of directors of her life, right? And having a great support system is really hard, but honestly, sometimes really hard to find.
Yes. I think so much harder post-COVID times too.
Do you think that most of your friendships came from like your younger years, like high school? I know we've known each other since high school, but like,
so many of my friends are over decade-long friendships, which I'm really blessed to say and to have. I know that's not the case for a lot of people, and I also know that it's hard to make friends now. So yes, I do have a lot of long-term friendships, but I've also met people within the last 2 years or even a year or even a couple months that I felt I could be so vulnerable with, and that I have their full support, you know? And I think as you get older, you also learn how to discern that better, right? Like, this person's worth my time, or this person's worth divulging my vulnerabilities to.
It's like an intuition thing.
Yeah,
I'm
for
a big
sure.
believer that like
Me
women
too.
intuition, like, especially if like you're very empathic.
Oh, but when I was
right?
young, I used to doubt it so much because I would have the feeling and then I'd say, no, you're crazy.
I think that really comes from like confidence with yourself, right?
Yeah, for sure. Trusting yourself. Yeah.
Like running a business, like you have to really trust yourself. So you have to lean into that so heavily that your discernment just becomes naturally so much stronger.
Yeah,
like,
I've
the
never
friendships
thought of
that
that.
that you choose. I think when you have a business, you start to audit your life. You're like, okay, like I need to reach this goal. What do I need to
You
do?
start to see everything as an investment. I don't know if that's just maybe having a business or as you grow older as this,
I think
but
that's when you get more serious with what you want in life, whether it is a business, a career, passion, love. You know, I just think that you start to become more selective.
this is
on
an
what you
investment.
want. Yeah.
What is my ROI looking like?
This is ROI, okay? Is this gonna be a wasted Saturday night, or
Yes.
are you my husband?
I actually tried to audit my life
Yeah.
like that. Even in terms of going out to eat with somebody, you know?
Yeah.
Like, is this going to be worth it? The next 2 hours that I go out to eat, is it going to be worth it? Is the food going to be worth it? Like, even your diet is kind of based on that.
I feel like your time is definitely one of the most valuable things because it's something you cannot get back, you know, so it's huge.
Girl, and I've wasted mine.
We've wasted it getting wasted.
We've wasted it together.
Wasted it together for sure. But I think like you also need to have those years as well.
Oh, no,
right?
I wouldn't do anything differently,
Yeah.
you know, because it brought me to where I am now. But when I think back, I'm like, wow, if I could have been this person maybe 4 years earlier, life would have been
life
maybe
in
be
for
really
sure
good.
right
Or
now.
who knows? Who's to say, right? But
yeah, but I'm a big believer, like everything happens for a reason, you know, and like you had to experience those things. Like at least for me, like my adolescent years, I mean, you remember me from high school. I don't think I'm anywhere near
I feel the same
person like
about myself.
yeah, and like I think
myself.
that's beautiful, you know, and you couldn't pay me to go back to 21 years old. Like you could not pay me because I mean it's just the lessons that you learn through like the hardships, whether that be friendships, relationships, your relationship with your parents, setting boundaries, you know, financial, like you learn so much, you know. So I think that really kind of plays a role into like going back to like discernment and like trusting yourself, right? So
Yep, definitely have to make mistakes to grow.
yeah. So I have another question for you. We touched a little bit on it, and I feel like we can touch a little bit on love in this section. You're running a business.
Uh-huh.
I know you've also been working for the most part, like a job, a JLB.
I have a real job
And
too,
also
guys.
managing a personal life, being active, pet city. Like you do a lot. Plus, like you're single, you're navigating that in a city like Miami.
A dumpster fire.
It's a dumpster fire. It's so bad. How do you manage all of that? Like, how do you feel like you've been able to find balance? Have you been able to find balance? Are you still finding that balance? Like,
I think I'm definitely still finding that balance. It's easier when I have things that are non-negotiables for me, right? Like my workout schedule is a non-negotiable. Like that has to get done. If you're trying to deprioritize me from that, you are not for me.
you're out.
You are not for me, you know?
Fuera.
Also, the gym is like a little cult. You should come. You're a True Fusion girly,
True Fusion.
aren't you?
Well, I'm a class pass girly.
Oh, me too.
Okay. So,
Oh, yoga, late night flow.
Yeah,
I went
yeah.
this week. I didn't see you.
all right. Listen, I've been a little busy, but next week you'll see me because I love. Oh my God, what is his name?
David.
David.
Shout
we
out,
love
David.
You. We love you. Seriously though, like I think it's my favorite class because of the music he plays. Like it just like
He's such a vibe. Yeah, he's such a vibe.
Yeah.
Fangirl.
Not me.
But there
tag him
are
on
things
this.
that are non-negotiables for me, right? So like working out is one. I try to see at least one of my friends once a week because
Okay.
I can be kind of a hermit and I will just avoid people for a very long time.
And that's really smart that you do that because I can also go into hermit mode. And I think when you're pursuing something, like you just get so focused, tunnel vision, and like that could be kind of dangerous because you get so stuck in your head.
Oh my gosh, yes. There's
like
moments
turn
where I don't
circle.
even want to go see my friend and I'm complaining the whole way there. Like, I can't believe you made me leave my house. There's so much freaking traffic. This is so annoying. And then I get there. I know, obviously, I'm aware that once I get there, everything's going to be okay. I kind of just let myself like relish in the negativity for a little bit.
For like a second.
And then I get there and I talk to them for 5 minutes. I'm already laughing. I'm like, oh my God, I needed this. I needed to hear your voice, see your face. I need you in my life.
With that little serotonin boost of like, all right, and then kind of grounding you back to reality that like, okay, well, everything you're pursuing is important. So are the human connections that you build in life, you know? And it's like,
I'd say that's even more important.
yeah, that's true.
Because I love that about Soul, that it's connected me with so many cool people, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Like through your mentorship and all of that.
Yeah, or people who are at the same event that I'm at and we connect. Like I met this really cool girl called Natalia who has a nonprofit all centered around mental health. And it's just because we were both at the same pop-up event, you know? So I've really been able to connect with so many really, really cool, talented, creative people.
Yeah, who are doing cool things because that's amazing.
And who are kind of in the same path, right? They're all trying to do their own thing. They feel the same pressures I feel. And so it's another area to bond over.
You guys have like a lot of commonalities. You know?
Yeah.
So you don't feel as lonely, you know? So support you have your board of directors.
Exactly.
So going into like more your personal life, so like we touched on a little bit of friends, you make sure you have that, right? But how do you feel like managing love in the thick of all of this?
It's definitely a challenge for me. Okay. It's also hard when you're really independent, the way I am, and I also feel the way you are.
What do you mean by independent? For like people who like,
I really believe I don't need anybody in my life. Okay.
We don't need you guys. No,
just to be very honest.
Okay,
but that's also a downfall to me, you know?
Yeah.
Like I know that's not a good quality. I'm working on it.
I mean, I think there's balance to it, right? Because I think that you can be solid in yourself, right? And know that like you don't need someone, but you can still want someone in your life and someone.
Definitely. And I think if when you do have successful partnerships, just outside of love also, it propels you more, you know? Like, yeah, you could do it all by yourself, but when you have a little bit of help here and a little bit of help there, it gets easier and you can do more. You can have more on your plate because you have that support. Obviously, I do want to be married and have a family and all the things. I just think right now, for me, I need to prioritize. Like, my business is my boyfriend, basically, you know? And that's kind of the mindset I'm in. So, not to say that I don't date and stuff, because I do. I try in this dumpster fire city. But if they're not adding to my life, and I want to say adding and taking away because they're adding positive aspects, but they're also taking away some of my stress or some of the responsibilities I might have, so together we can be better. If that's not happening, it's not really worth it for me, you know?
Yeah. That's totally fair because especially when you want to pursue something, like, yes, you have like your tunnel vision, but you want someone to like help take the edge off, similar to what your friend.
Right.
I think that so many of us look at love, and I know I did for a really long time, where it was like, okay, like they need to be like everything all in one, right? Like this person was going to do, like, who's going to like support me emotionally, financially, in all these regards, and like also be my best friend and all these things. But I think like recently I've like taken a step back and been like, okay, like this person can only be like certain things.
Yeah, they don't have to wear all the hats.
They don't have to wear all the hats, you know? And I feel like that takes a little bit of the pressure off when dating too.
Yeah.
Because you have a board of directors, they're supporting you. You're like, okay, like I don't need you, but like it would be nice, you know? And I think as women, we crave that for sure. Like we're very, especially like when you're tapped into your feminine energy, you know, like obviously we lean into our masculine because, you know, you want to run a business, you gotta make money most, you know, but I think there's moments where, you know, like we're just kind of having a rough day and just like want a guy to be like, it's okay, honey, here's some flowers and some chocolates,
Yeah.
and like have a good night, have a self-care love night. It's not even hanging out. Don't even hang out with me. It's just kind of like, I think
I've
it's the
been able to
consideration.
find that with other people though, because I've been there where like it has to be a guy to fulfill that role, but it really doesn't, you know. Like there's so many outlets for you to get love from in your life,
Very
like
true.
your pet. Like you can feel like a provider through your pet. You can feel like, I don't know, like very affectionate type of love through your pet. Back to the self-care nights. You know how many times I call Daniel? We have a mutual gay best friend, Daniel. Daniel,
Mutual
just
gay best friend.
come over. I need to do a face mask and have wine and just maybe don't even talk to me. Just lay on the couch and exist next to me, you know? Or like you're a friend that I would do that with too. Or if I feel like I've had a really rough day, I just want somebody to make me laugh, I have friends that I would go to for that, or I'd go to the gym and stuff like that. So I think I kind of am getting myself out of this headspace of a guy's gonna come save you and be all of that for you. Because as girls, that's what you taught growing up. You know, we watch the Disney movies. Their life is kind of crazy. The man appears and then like birds sing and ribbons fall from the sky and everything's great. And no one's coming to save you but yourself. So I've been able to find love in different ways that's not purely romantic.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And it makes dating so much easier because you already have like your cup filled.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just kind of like, okay, like who is going to add to it and like make it even more beautiful, you know? And I think that's a switch that a lot of women need to do, you know? And like that's something that I had to do like when I was first out of a relationship. You know, like when you're first out of a relationship, you're like, oh my God,
it's rough.
I'm never gonna have love again. Like all these things, you know? And like I feel like you cling on to the next thing if you're like, unhealthy.
And that I think was big for me too, like clinging on to something which was realistically just a distraction.
Yeah, that person and you were never gonna work out. You were literally just using
okay, who are you talking about? Not talking.
Honestly, I don't have anybody specific in mind, but like the temporary people in our lives, you know, that you date for like a hot second.
I think subliminally, you know, subconsciously, you know this is a distraction. It's fun. It's giving you life again, whatever. But you know, ultimately, this is a distraction. And now that, back to the auditing your life, now that I do that more heavily, it's easy to say, like, you're a distraction. In 3 months, I'm going to look back and be like, wow, I could have progressed so much more instead of going wherever with this person, you know?
Yeah, I've recently, and this is a little toxic when it comes to men. This is toxic. I know. Like, what I'm going to say is probably going to get me canceled. But I feel like sometimes men are such a waste of time. Like, most men. I'm not talking about all men. There are good men out there who, whatever. But
show yourselves. Where are you?
We're waiting for you guys. But no, honestly, I feel like most of the time they are a waste of time because like they make you, I feel like a lot of men in Miami
want moms,
or, you know, like they'll kind of play up this game in the beginning and then kind of like slowly fade out, or like there's just so many different experiences that women have with men that like are just not reliable.
There's so many games.
Yes.
But I think you're on the same page where I am, where I just don't have time for that.
Yeah.
You know, and I've done that in my life before, and our time is really valuable, and we have goals that we want to achieve outside of having a family. Because that's okay. Some girls, that's their goal, and they want to be a family, and they can dedicate a bunch of time to dating and figuring all their stuff out. That's not us.
Yeah, it depends on like what you prioritize for sure in life.
And I think we have a lot of priorities right now, me and you.
Yeah.
So it's not beneficial to anybody to have these games anymore. When we were younger, sure, it was fun. We didn't have so many priorities. We weren't as ambitious, whatever. But now it's almost offensive. Like, you're wasting my time, and I'm disrespected.
Yeah, it's really unreal. Like, and it's crazy when you're young. You're like, oh my God, why is he doing this to me? Like, you go from like kind of a victim, and then like as you get older and more secure in yourself and like secure in what you want, you just kind of see it as like, ew, like,
why are you behaving this way?
Why are you behaving this way? Like, this is totally ick. Like, I feel bad for your next girlfriend. Like, you know, so I think it's kind of beautiful though, like that evolution that
for sure.
So one of my last few questions. So what is the biggest lesson that you've learned specifically for Soul to Soul from your mentors along the way, or like, or even just anything you've really learned along the way?
Oh my gosh, I have several.
Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, one of the ones that's been heavy, I had this mentor that used to always say PTC.
What does that mean?
The key to success is PTC, project to completion. How many times do you have an idea? Like, oh my God, that's such a good idea. You write it down, you maybe start it, but you don't take it all the way.
Yeah, no, it's true. And it's all like,
It's so easy to do. Be like, oh my God, I'm doing great because I had this idea. Okay, yeah, you had the idea. And now what?
where's the follow
And I was that person for a
okay.
long time until I met this guy, and he was always PTC, and he would keep up with me. Almost, it kind of felt like micromanaging a little bit. It wasn't that. It was just genuine interest and like caring about me. But he'd always ask, so have you started on the idea? What's the next move? What phase are you in? This, that, the other. And that really pushed me to say, hey, once you have the idea, you have that momentum, you have to see it through. Yeah. And the longer you wait, the harder it is. And you never know if that's the idea that pops off for you, you know?
Or it doesn't, and that's okay too.
And you learn from it, but you learn from it.
Yeah. And it could lead you to something completely
exactly.
You know?
So that was a big one for me. PTC, man, it really is so easy to have an idea and then just write it in your notes and forget about it.
Forget about it.
Don't look at my notes app. Disclaimer.
Is it a hot mess? What's going on?
No, but there's a lot of ideas in there. There's a lot of ideas.
I mean, that's top secret. You got to be careful. You can't spread that with everybody.
Sign this NDAs. And no, I'm kidding.
Yeah, girl. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I have a business plan, and like, I have to like cut out pieces to like share with people. I'm like, do you like this? But like, I can't show you everything. You know?
That's so secret. Funny. What's another advice
or lessons you've learned?
Definitely to be vulnerable is a big one for me, because I am, like I said, a very private person, and I do kind of think I have this handled, which makes you a little bit crazy. No, but it also makes you feel really crazy, you know, and it's easy to feel alone. So I think that has been a huge lesson for me, that just opening yourself up will open so many other doors and so many connections for you. So that's a big lesson, I would say.
And that's a big one, because I feel like a lot of people, and like, even when I was starting this podcast, it's like, passion project, a lot of people were telling me like, don't tell too many people, because like a lot of the CEOs of like companies tell you, don't tell people like what you're up to, you know, just do it, like work in silence. So
I agree with that, but I think that means like, don't go on TikTok or Instagram and be putting it on your story like, hey guys, I have this new venture, because there are haters, and energy is real. Yeah. I believe energy is real. I know you believe energy is real. So I do agree with that. Don't tell everybody, but I do think you need to tell your close people, your circle, because they're going to encourage you. They're not going to send you hate if they're your real friend, you know?
Yeah. Keyword, if they're your real friend.
And you'll figure it out.
Yeah. Especially as you launch something new and you start to trigger some people by your projects just by being yourself, you know? And I've realized that. I don't know, have you experienced that? Like, as you kind of like went into this new endeavor, like you just realized people just were not going to be your biggest advocate, you know, like through like starting your business.
Yeah, for sure. I've always kind of I held the belief of what you see is a reflection of you. So I've taken it that way, you know, if somebody is sending me hate and is really jealous or just has a problem with me, I'm like, you have nasty things going on inside. Like, I know it's not personal to me, it's probably just things that you're dealing with, so I wish you well. Move on.
Like that dyslexia, a lot of people project these days. It's so ugly, especially when they're not
It's
healed.
easy to do though, honestly. Like, I know I do it sometimes, and it's with my closest people, like with my brother. Oh my god, sometimes I'm a nightmare, and I have to reality check myself and be like, Tam, you're projecting on this poor guy who's literally just trying to exist right now, and you're being a little bit of a demon. So it is easy to do. It is easy. But it's nice when you can realize that this person is doing that. And then, you know, you have two avenues. Either you talk to them about it and you see what's actually going on, or you just say, this person is not ultimately adding to my life. So it's time to cut the cord.
Seriously, he feels the same way. Well, I guess one last question. I guess you kind of already answered it.
No, it's okay. I'm trying to think of one other pieces of advice. I think the last piece of advice I have is to prepare.
What do you mean by prepare?
I'm someone who just jumps into things like head first off the deep end. Okay. And while you do learn through experience, now that I've done a couple of things, like, for example, photo shoots. I used to come kind of prepared, like some vague idea of the shots that I wanted, the outfits I wanted.
Okay.
And now that I work with actual photographers, it is so detailed, you know, like down to the lighting, down to what poses, down to what we're trying to portray, the underlying message. It's so nitty gritty. All of that. And those are all things that you learn along the way, or at least I learned along the way, but it doesn't have to be like that either. You know, you could do extensive research and be very prepared, and then everything is just so much smoother when you are prepared.
Yeah. And I think there has to be a balance there for sure. Because course. Like, I think I end up
too much doesn't let your creative juices flow. I get that,
it's
but
like perfectionism kind of comes in, you know. So it's like finding that balance. Because I know, like, for me, I think that's the hardest
You
part
over
about
prepare.
I over prepare, and it's like a little annoying because I'm like, all right, I need to just get this show on the road.
So
you know?
maybe our biggest piece of advice for people is to know yourself well. Because if you know yourself well, you know your weaknesses. Like for me, it's definitely preparation. I'm kind of like, I'm going to wing it and I got it.
Yeah.
And it's fucked me over before, you know?
Yeah, for
Definitely.
sure.
And then on your hands, you over prepare and then you feel constrained.
Yeah.
Like you feel like it needs to be done this
needs to
way
be
and
done-
anything else is like a disaster.
Yeah. So I think like a layer of that is like really embracing pivots, and like you like, displayed that just like in kind of your transition into from veterinarian to like becoming a veterinarian to like now and like a designer and a CEO and a brand.
The only
owner.
constant thing in your life is change.
Yeah, so it's
It'll
like really
never go
embracing the
away.
pivots and be like, it's okay for things to change. It's okay if your life is not going to go down the drain because you decided to make an edit. But with that, thank you so much, Tammy. Seriously,
Thank
for
you.
coming. I think I had so much fun, like talking. To
I
you
loved it. I
and
can't wait
collaborating
to
with
see
you.
your first drop.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm gonna try not to over prepare.
We're sorry. We didn't know this was gonna be like this.
Thank you so much, Tammy, for being here. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you and like getting to know more in depth, you know, about your life and your business. But I know you have a launch coming up very, very soon.
We do. Keep your eyes peeled. Some exciting things.
Yeah, all inspired by Cher in the 70s.
Retro.
Yes.
We're taking it retro.
Retro. We're here for a Cher So Extra, and we are all extra over here.
We love her. You know my favorite Cher quote?
What?
Her mom said, "You have to find yourself a rich man." And she said, "Mom, I am a rich man."
And with that, thank you so much, everyone, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Bye.